Hello, everyone. Om Shanti, and welcome to this very special edition of The Next Normal in collaboration with the Brahma Kumari's Meditation Museums, America Meditating Radio. And we're so happy that we have bought into doing a book with Sacred Stories Publishing, and we couldn't be more delighted to be with you on this auspicious day. 02/02/2022 is no mistake why a book is being released based on our intimate relationship or connection or experiences with the divine. Many of you have known me over the years. My whole life has been committed to not only my love for God, but my love for service in uplifting humanity to its best capacity. As much as I know that we struggle sometimes to be our best version, but there is something beautiful in the struggle, because I think it actually leads us to a deeper, intimate relationship with the divine. Our special show today will feature some of my friends and co-authors who are traveling alongside with me in this journey of this new book, Meditation, Intimate Experiences with the Divine Through Contemplative Practices. Each story just opens you up to thinking deeper about your own journey in life. And the co-authors that are joining me today are no less. Of course, we have over 30, so I couldn't choose all of them today. But over the next few months, we will definitely be able to hear other stories in the book. And it's my pure intent and pure feeling that you will be called after this show to get a copy, to share it, to read it in the evenings when you're lying in bed, to maybe gift it to a friend, and to have a conversation about your own inner longing, your own inner conversation or relationship with God. You'll hear me talk a lot about Baba. As you know, if you've been with me on my journey, I call God Baba because it just humbles me. I don't bring the ego into my relationship with God. I just want to be a child in front of Baba so that the work can happen and he can develop me in the best way possible. So sit back and relax. We're going to have a wonderful hour together. And I could not be starting the show out than with the beautiful Kristin Hoffmann, who's a Juilliard-trained, incredible songstress, but someone who I've had the fortune of traveling with for a long time. We met in a very unique way in California, and since then, we've been really hooked together, doing a lot of amazing things in service, and her beautiful voice will definitely speak volumes in terms of her link to God, to Baba. Kristin, thank you for joining us for the book launch. Om Shanti.
Om Shanti, Sister Jenna. It's such an honor to be here today celebrating this new book. And Sister Jenna, I just have to say, in regards to the subject matter of intimate experiences and conversation with divine, you have this incredible way of always sparking my connection with divine and my creative spirit to new levels ever since we first met. And I'm so grateful for that. And today I'm going to be introducing a brand new song in celebration of the book called Sweet Divine. And it's amazing. Sister Jenna and I, a few months back, before an America meditating retreat, we were on the phone one night, and the next day there was going to be another author, Caroline Mace, coming on the show to talk about this subject in relationship to her new book. And we thought, oh, wouldn't it be great to bring through a new song? And I went to work that night, and the next morning I played this song live on the America Meditating program. And it's amazing that now it gets to be birthed into full form. I did a full studio recording, and we're going to bring it through to support this incredible meditation book, Intimate Experiences with Divine, at this time. So just to let you know, I will be we're going to see the music video today for the first time, but I will be officially releasing the song globally on 2/22/2022, another super master number day. And we will start with the launch on the Unify platform between 2 and 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And I think Sister Jenna and I will be sharing that hour together and celebration of the book and the song and all, right? Sister Jenna, you're going to be there?
Oh, yeah, I'm going to try to. Yeah. Yeah, I'll be there.
I have a feeling she's going to be there in full divine form. But we will just be getting into the spirit of this song. This song is all about our intimate connection to spirit, these conversations that are so personal. And when we truly give ourselves permission to create a space and step into that quiet part of ourselves and just be present and observe and love into that space, the divine emerges. And it can be instantaneous. It's not something that you have to work years and years for. It's literally an instantaneous occurrence when we get quiet, when we go within and we just open to that divine energy. The connection is almost immediate, and we can develop it and keep it in this incredible growing form as we continue to tap in again and again and again. So without further ado, should we check out the brand new video? What do you think, Sister J?
Please, I can't wait.
Okay.
Sweet divine, you know my soul in intimate light. You guide me with a map of signs. Let me know that it's all right. It's all right. Sweet divine, when we speak in deepest prayer, in the silence feel you there, like you're always so aware of me. In these conversations, you help me see the way. These conversations, my unique offering. These conversations, the healing that is mine to claim. Oh, sweet divine. Sweet divine, in your gaze I'm never alone. You lead me back to heart and home. Help me hear the truest tone of who I am. Sweet divine, even when I'm living asleep, forgotten how to listen deep, you find a way to sing to me through the night. In these conversations, you help me see the way. These conversations, my unique offering. These conversations, the healing that is mine to claim. Oh, sweet divine. These conversations, my unique offering. These conversations, the healing that is mine to claim. Oh, sweet divine, sweet divine.
Oh, I love the video so much. It turned out so beautifully.
I don't know, I got a little teary-eyed.
Me too. Oh,
Beautiful.
well, I just want to say namaste. It has been such an honor to be with you all, and thank you to God, thanks to Divine, to Baba, and to all of the sisters of the Brahma Kumaris for reminding us all of our sacred and intimate relationship and how important it is to maintain this connection and this conversation with Divine.
Thank you. Om Shanti. Thanks.
Om Shanti.
Well, everyone, we're off to an incredible start. You'll get a chance now. You're getting a complete experience of what's in this book. My next guest is Yogesh Sharda, someone that I've known for many, many years. Actually, he doesn't remember this, but he got me in trouble in India one year. I happened to have been asked to bring some cake to a private meeting they were hosting with all the brothers in the BKs in India. And I didn't know how private their group meeting was with all the brothers, but I was just told to bring cake to their party. And so I brought the cake to the party, and would you believe he squealed on me to say I was in their brothers retreat? I don't think he even remembers that. But apart from that legacy, this is a young man that I have watched embody the energy of the divine and the grace and the depth of his relationship with Baba cannot be hidden. And I'd like to welcome Brother Yogesh, who happens to be on page 137, as he talks about his experience from the age of 8 years old, I believe, Yogesh. And just on your journey, what is it that has made you commit your life to the Father? And what was that point that the recognition happened, as you shared in the book? Welcome.
Yeah, thank you, Om Shanti, and thank you so much for having me. Thank you, Sister Jenna, for honoring your journey over the years. That's inspired me. And just to say to Kristin, when a piece of art is divinely inspired, it is so obvious to see. And that was divinely inspired for sure. So yeah, when I was around 8 years old, I started going to the local Brahma Kumari center in the east of London. And of course, at that age, I didn't understand too much about spiritual knowledge, but I loved just to sit and meditate. I was a quiet child, and even now, I prefer being quiet rather than speaking. But yet, I found one particular day when I was sitting in the meditation room, I just felt I detached from my physical body, and I just became aware of myself as being the spiritual energy which is making this body work. And it was so clear that I am the soul and the body is my vehicle. And then I felt a pull towards what we call as the soul world, or the home of all souls. And so my eyes closed in the meditation, and I just felt myself like flying in a spaceship of thoughts up towards this region, which I visualized as a kind of golden red region of complete silence and peace. So firstly, I was absorbing like a sponge, the peace, the silence, the stillness of the home of all souls. And then secondly, I felt the presence of the divine, who was also like a star, very powerful, very bright. And I was just bathing in that divine energy of love and acceptance. And it was timeless. It just felt after my eyes had opened that it was a few moments that had passed by. But when I looked at the watch, it was, much longer, maybe 40, 45 minutes. And so it became so clear to me that this divine being is there, my friend, my mother, my father, and part of my everyday life must start with honoring my connection with that being. And one thing I think I've always enjoyed and paid attention to is to live as a child of God. So not just in the meditation, but the inspiration was at every moment, let me really live as a child of God. And so in that sense, worry and fear and unnecessary thinking does not belong to me. When I forget I'm a child of God, then overthinking happens. But the moment I remember, whose child am I? For me, these two questions are very focusing. Who am I? Whose child am I? That just brings me back to the right connection with myself and with the divine. And then I find that I'm able to see life as a game. And also it puts me in a position to be able to share in my relationships, to give love, to be patient, to forgive when I remember whose child I am. And so then it became a living relationship from that moment onwards. Yeah.
Beautiful, beautiful. Well, I felt that when I was reading your particular chapter and how it was such I think you explained the depths of the intimacy, and sometimes you can never find words for it. But we can feel it through your presence, Yogesh. And thank you so much for joining us for the launch of the book.
Thank you.
Thank you. As we move on, a very close friend of mine, Reverend Sylvia Sumter, senior pastor for Unity of Washington, D.C. Church. We've been through the throes together, many travels, many experiences, many projects, much to my amazement that as much as she's a lover of Jesus, she's a lover of all beings. And her encounter on page 127, which was a divine encounter, which kind of connects to Yogesh's as well, I think brings light to, despite whatever your religious traditions are, don't close your door on the other children of God out there who can actually support you in your journey. So Reverend Sylvia Sumter, thank you so much for contributing to the book, and thanks for your story.
Shanti, and thank you, Sister Jenna. I think that this was a divine idea planted at the right and perfect time for this book, because as we all know, the world is really searching for something deep and meaningful, something that connects us to one another. And it's the journey inward. But when I was a child, I knew that there was something a little different about me. One of the activities that I used to love to do was when I had an opportunity to be outdoors in the evening or at night, I would gaze up at the stars and I would recite the wonderful children's poem, Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star. And that was one where children would utter and affirm that prayer and hoping and wishing that they would get some wonderful gift or present. So I would do Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, how I wonder where thou art, up above and down below. And it was sort of, grant me this wish I wish tonight. And most children would wish for a bike or a toy, but I would always find myself wishing for peace, for humanity. Now, I was a young child, and even I knew that that was a bit strange. And every time I would try to wish for something, material, my heart would just wish for the healing and the blessing of humanity. Now, little did I know that, of course, part of my life's journey and purpose would be to serve humanity. But that little child's vision and that inner wish was what prompted me on my spiritual journey. I've been a seeker for as long as I can remember. And part of my seeking, I would often make these pilgrimages to India, to an ashram in India. And the monks would take us very often through certain processes to open us up to that inner domain of our own hearts and minds and to the realm of the divine and spirit. And on one occasion, we were in the temple and we were all lying on the floor. And after having gone through a breathing exercise that they took us through, all of a sudden, I found myself in this place where I was observing this tremendous white light, and it was off to my left side. And I was trying so desperately to turn towards the light. I wanted to gaze into this powerful, it was a pull, it was a drawing of my spirit and my soul. But yet I could not turn directly to look into the light. And I was trying so earnestly. The next thing I knew, before me stood a figure that was emblazed in light, but I knew that it was Jesus the Christ, right before me, emblazed in pure light. So I couldn't see all the features, but somehow his essence and his spirit came through so that I knew that that was Jesus. And then to my left side were some of my teachers from the ashram, Sri Amma Bhagwan, and they were at my left side. And on my right side was the light that emanated the Buddha spirit, and it was sort of Buddha. And behind Buddha was, I believe, to be Krishna. But these beings were ablaze with light, and they were standing before me with so much love and compassion. And as I still wanted to turn toward this great light, the great light, Jesus said, it's not necessary for me to look directly into the light, that they were the full embodiment of the light, just as I am. And that all that I would need is contained within me as it is within them. And they proceeded to give me what I call a holy hug. There was conversation. Couldn't quite remember what the conversation was at that point. I do remember the end of the conversation, but during that point, they surrounded me and gave me what I call a holy hug. And it was this transference of love and light that went totally into my being and my heart. And it was as if to say that the light that I see in them, the light that is the great light of God, or the light of the divine, is also in me. And through that hug, I could feel it. And it was so powerful. And then all of a sudden, as I was basking in that, I recognized I am the embodiment of the light of God, just as you are, just as these great saints, sages are as well. And then it was a conversation about my mission in life. And they were there to remind me that my soul had committed to serve humanity all since I was a young child, and that I had allowed maybe life to get in the way. But this was a reawakening of my mission, an affirmation of my purpose for being, that I was here to uplift and serve humanity, to relieve suffering wherever I could, and to bring light into the world, and to remind others that they too are light workers, light beings. And so they turned me around after that wonderful holy hug and said that it was time for me to continue with my mission. And I left feeling I could see myself walking, and they were behind me watching, but sending love and support and light and validation. And it was sort of me just walking into my mission, walking into my purpose of continuing the journey to be light, the embodiment of light and love, and to help my fellow human beings and my fellow sojourners along this path of life itself. And so it was a great experience because I felt, yes, I'm on track, I'm on point, and I'm on purpose. So thank you so much for allowing me to share this part of my journey.
You definitely pulled us in. That must have been so mystical. I love the reality that the light is within us, and we are made in his image too, of light. That's been a message we've been hearing over time, but I think now we're getting it. that we are that light. The light is within us. Thank you so much, Reverend Sylvia Sumter. Next is a very dear friend that I had the fortune of meeting as a director of the Peace Ambassadors, and great work that she's been doing over time. Great consultant in the corporate sector, making things move, taking things to the top. And then 9/11 happened, where there really wasn't much light on that day. But as a result of that event, it changed her life forever. And her chapter in the book on page 51 speaks about my quest for world peace. Please meet Emily Hine. Hi, Emily.
Hi, Sister Jenna.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
what was it like? What was your opening? What was that light that shone on such a dark day? How did it change you?
I have to say that I didn't expect to be shaken awake so abruptly like many people were that day. What struck me as the events of 9/11 unfolded was how I saw the world responding in two desperate ways or disparate ways. One group was responding with peace and compassion and love, and another group with anger and vengeance and hatred. And I literally made a vow that day to dedicate my life to peace and compassion. I was working at Microsoft at the time, and on that day, I made the decision to leave the safety and security of corporate America and figure out how to serve peace and compassion. So that was scary. I didn't know what would happen next. And so, like many people do, when you're in that transition phase, you go inward. So the first thing I did was I learned how to meditate. And I thought, well, this can maybe help me get some clarity on where to go next with this mission that I've signed up for. But also maybe it can help me deal with the chronic anxiety and depression that I had had most of my life. So I had no idea that I would receive such divine guidance. I loved Kristin's song, "Sweet Divine, You Guide Me with a Map of Signs." That is exactly what happened to me. I could not have predicted it. The first thing that happened was, after learning how to meditate and sitting with myself, there was an event one day where this energy just came into my body, through my head, all the way down into my body and enveloped me. And it was this divine presence that felt like me, only way better. And I just felt filled up. And I thought, wow, what is this? I want more of this. And soon thereafter, I started receiving visitations from divine masters, including Jesus Christ himself and the Dalai Lama. And I thought, what the heck is this? I really didn't talk about it very much because this wasn't happening among my friends at dinner parties. And so I just kept to myself. But what was happening was I was getting little breadcrumbs. I was getting little signs. Jesus guided me to volunteer to work for an effort to help create United States Department of Peace, which literally would require an act of Congress. And so I would have to go to Washington, D.C. and lobby for this Department of Peace. And I just felt too small to do this. And I was sort of arguing with Jesus, as one does in meditation, and saying, I'm not big enough for this. I can't do this. And he didn't say anything in response, but he showed me an image of my body next to the Washington, D.C. buildings, the Capitol buildings, the congressional buildings. And then he showed a visual of my body growing in size to 2 to 3 times these Capitol buildings. And the message I received loud and clear was, you are not that small. You have the divine light, the divine guidance to be huge. And there is no act of Congress. There is no person, no political affiliation, no nothing that can get in the way of the strength and power of your soul and of the divine light. And so that is a message that I took forward that day on. And I did go to DC and I did lobby Congress, and I share about that in my story. And I went on to do other things related to peace and compassion that were pretty extraordinary. And I never would have had the confidence to do that if this divine light hadn't come into me and I hadn't been shown sort of my bigness in the world. Mm-hmm. So that's what I wanted to share today. And I do think the timing of this is so critical, Sister Jenna, the timing of this book and just the collective transformation that we're all going through. So it's important we share our stories to inspire others to wake up, go inward, and also transform themselves in the world.
Yeah. What I loved about yours is that it reminds us that if we void out the energy of Baba from our narratives, it becomes very hard. We don't think we're ever going to be enough. Right. But if we can incorporate the energy of God's light into our choices, and wherever my tribe sustains me the most, whether it's in Christianity or Islam or Hinduism or Buddhism, wherever it is, you can feel a resonance with a community of folks that maybe feed into you. Yet that light is ultimate and for all. And if we can just let it feed more into us at an unlimited level, can you imagine what we could do? I would have loved to have seen you all pumped up bigger than the Capitol. I love that. I love that. Thank you so much, Emily Hine. You're a wonderful gift to our world. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Jenna.
Thank you. Next, we have Brother Max Tucci. Now, Max is a wonderful blend of many things. Coming from a family of restaurateurs, the Del Menico, I hope I did that right, Italiano, you know, the fire in the Italiano energy. But the fact that Max went through a very traumatic experience at a very young age of losing his father, the love of his life, but then moving into another version of himself and carrying what he has taken from his father, but then bumping into the importance of his initials, OM, O-M. Max, tell us a little bit about the initials and the vibration of this OM and how it impacted you in your change. And you're on page 105.
105. Welcome.
Yes,
thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you for having me here today. Yes, OM. It was ingrained in my being, Oscar Maximilian Tucci, OM. And as a child, I was always called OM. And it was fascinating because I grew up in a very Catholic household. My mother came from Lithuania. My father was Italian, very Catholic. I was an altar boy. And from a young age, I knew that I was from the I am of the I am. And it wasn't something that I've learned in church or that I learned being an altar boy. It was something that was already inside of me. I would walk through the streets of Florence, Italy, where I was raised, and I would have to stop and pause and kneel and make the sign of the cross and pray. It was almost like a Joan of Arc experience. I had no idea what I was doing, and my mother allowed me to just be me. And so I grew up in this fascinating world. It was the Ringling Brothers and Barnum circus of the restaurant industry, Delmonico's, which is America's first fine dining restaurant. My grandfather took it over in 1926, and then my father proceeded and my aunt as well. So the hospitality industry was always, how may I serve you? All are welcome at my table. These were the Delmonico way. These were ways that I was raised to believe. And so my future was an amazing childhood. I was born into this family that really, I called my father the producer of my childhood. It was everything from playing the drums to riding horses to travel all around the world. And even though he was operating one of the largest restaurants in New York, 1,000 lunches a day, he found time for family. And family was really his joy. And so on my 8th birthday, on Valentine's Day, which is my birthday, my father had a massive stroke and passed away. And as a child at 8 years old, I thought, oh, my father is just going away. He'll be back. I didn't understand that there was an absence that was going to create a huge void and also anger in my life. And I remember being at his funeral, and I remember we have a mausoleum there, and I remember standing there in my little coat, and I was just expecting like him to come out and have a party with us, and we go back home, and there was this enormous party. Everyone from dignitaries and politicians and socialites were there, but my father wasn't there. So still in my young mind, I didn't realize where he was. And for years, I really thought about, where is my father? Not realizing that my father was already in me. And it was very much like the Lion King. He lives in you. And when I was growing up, I met a fabulous woman by the name of Letty, Grandma Letty. And I was doing a yoga class at the age of 14, I believe. And Grandma Letty at the time, was the teacher, the yogi. And I wrote down my name, and she said, Om, Oscar Max Tucci. Was your father Mario? I said, yes. She said, I was supposed to be your nanny and go to Italy with you, but I went in a different direction and started teaching special ed. So we reconnected in that moment. And in that moment, Letty was like teaching me yoga. She was teaching me meditation. And she would always tell me about this ashram in Florida called Kashi, Mahajaya. Teach all ways are of the divine. And years later, going through this anger still of my father, not of his death necessarily, but of the roles that he left me. I was the husband, I was the father, I was the uncle, I was all of these masculine roles that my father left for me to have. Now, for me, that's what really I think aggravated my being, because I was a free spirit. I'm an Aquarius. If I didn't have skin, I would be everywhere. So I remember the anger. And again, not the anger that was death, but the anger of the roles that I had to take on. So I moved to Florida, fast forward, and I find myself at Kashi Ashram. Majai had written a book, 11 Sacred Spaces. I wanted to interview her on my podcast, Max and Friends. And so they said, well, you have to come and meet her. I said, it'll be a pleasure. I went to meet her. I walk in, and Ma, in her big loving way, goes, come hug the guru. What do you want from the guru? And I looked at her, I said, nothing. She goes, finally, someone who doesn't want anything from the guru. And I said, it's not what I want from you, it's what may I offer you? And that comes from being raised in a family of hospitality. How may I be of service to you? And so Ma said, walk the property and just surrender. And so as I was walking the property of Kashi Ashram, I was thinking heavily of my father. And there was an old train car. There is an old train car on the property. And I found myself in there, and I found myself really like becoming an inner child again. My inner child was like, let's play, let's play. So I'm inside of this train car. And as I'm inside of this train car, I start to meditate. And I'm meditating there, and I'm thinking of my father, and I'm thinking of the restaurant, and I'm thinking of my mother. And then I start thinking of my anger, and I start thinking of the roles, and I'm hearing, I am of the I am, I am of the I am. And then I'm just in my head saying, Om, and just letting it all go out, getting it out, purging myself of what I didn't know at the time was this anger that I had towards my father. And as I'm oming in this train car, the time was infinite. And I'm sitting there, and I'm realizing that my father's death had given me my life. It was an epiphany in that moment, that in order for me to be who I am, that I did not have to be chained to the restaurant of Delmonico's, that I could live my life, that I can go into this industry of multimedia, that I can go into podcasting, that I can go into radio and television and fashion and photography. His death was my permission to be me. And so it was in that moment, or in those infinite moments, that I realized my father's death was my biggest gift in life. And the fact that he died on my birthday was the biggest gift, because his death gave me my life. And it's not that I wished him dead. It was that I realized he allowed me to go be me, live my destiny, be a part of this world that we all live in, and to know and remember that I am of the I am. And so it was in that train car at Kashi that really my anger, I surrendered all. I call myself a spiritual gangster. You know, I'm not the one that sits in meditation all day long, but I know that it's a place of really peace. And it's for everyone. And everyone who's tuning in, no matter who you are, no matter where you are, no matter what you believe, take time to be still. Take time to be still and know, and take time to meditate. And I thank you for having me here.
Thank you so much, Max, for your contribution. I mean, what touched me about your story is that you knew your father is in you. And when I think about the father of the soul, just imagine the beauty and the divinity of God, the Supreme Father, in us, and how that can express in such a beautiful way in our character and our personality. Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
So next we have a dear friend who I've known for quite a long time. We don't want to reveal our age, but we've known each other for over 2 decades. And we have had the privilege of working on a multitude of events and programs and initiatives that have changed the lives of millions of people around the world. Dr. Kanu Kogod, who is one of my dearest friends and a consultant and somebody who's an exquisite facilitator of conveying messages, has offered something in the book that I loved because it was so fascinating. The universe is within, the universe within you. By her being on this retreat, and I thought it would be great for her to share with us that telltale moment of when you kept calling out to God like you're getting really upset now, which we sometimes do get upset with Baba. But then he looks and he smiles, he goes, whatever. But something happened to you. Share with us a little bit.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Sister Jenna. And yeah, I have to give a little context in order to really get the depth of the experience that I had. Um, I had been a seeker for a really long time, and I had met all kinds of great beings, and I had been looking because I was really unhappy with my own religion, which wasn't giving me like a spiritual sense. And so I had met Swami Muktananda when he came to Gainesville, where I was a graduate student, and in that time, uh, I I I was like open to whatever happened because I had already met a number of great beings, and I thought, well, this is going to be really nice. And then in meditation, when the meditation started in the first retreat that we had, I had that awakening. I had that full awakening where I became detached from my body. I only saw myself as a light of 1,000 suns. And it just blew me away. The whole experience blew me away how that happened. And without going deep into that experience, it changed me so much to help me see who I really am, like this light, this illuminated light. I'm not this body. I'm not all the roles I play. I am this light, and I really got it. So I came back to my normal life, which I was married at the time. I had a young child, and as I said, I was a graduate student, and I had a busy life. And all of a sudden, my life started to fall apart. I couldn't. It was like I lost my marriage. I'll just say it really quick. I lost my marriage. I became a single mother, working, going to school, and money was miserable. My parents had pretty much disowned me because I had changed my name from Sandy to Kanu, and they couldn't get over, was I in a cult or something? And it was such a shift for me to lose everything. So I came back a year and a half later. I came back and I saw Swami Muktananda again. I was at a retreat, and I was sitting in the back of a hall of 800 people, and I'm crying like, you ruined my life. How could this happen? All of a sudden I have no money. My parents aren't speaking to me. I'm divorced. I'm working all the time. I'm trying to take care of my son. How could this be? Like, I'm on a spiritual path. What's wrong here? And what was wrong was I was crying and crying and crying from all the things that were falling away. And I was very angry at Muktananda. And I was saying, if you are for real, if you are a real guru, you would come over here and you would tell me right now that you're for real and that this isn't all a hoax. And he wasn't coming over, and I'm crying and sobbing, and he wasn't coming over, and he wasn't coming over. And probably, I don't know, for maybe 20, 30 minutes, I was crying like this. And then I just decided, I didn't even decide. I actually didn't decide. It was just like an energy pulled me right up into the front of a hall of 800 people. And Muktananda, Baba, I called him, and we all called him Baba. He was sitting on a stage in a chair and didn't even open his eyes when I came forward, nothing. And I'm looking at him with anger. And then all of a sudden he unfolded his feet and he stuck his feet out, the soles of his feet out in front of me as I was peering at his feet. And as I'm looking at the soles of his feet, they started to change. And it was like a movie was going on in his feet. I saw the whole universe. I saw trees. I saw oceans. I saw people. I saw cities. It was like everything was going by really fast. And it lasted for about 2 minutes where I'm just looking. And then all of a sudden I closed my eyes and I heard his voice inside my head. I heard him say, you are crying about your small little life when I am giving you the universe. I still marvel when I think about it. I still am so moved when I think about that hit, that strong light of realizing everything had to fall away for me to be who I am today. I could not do the things I've done. I could not live the amazing life that I've had, the experiences of going around the world and being with so many amazing teachers and being a teacher myself, if it hadn't been for realizing that universe, that whole thing was in me. So thank you for letting me share, Sister Jenna. And thank you all for listening so beautifully. And may this book inspire so many people to find that light within themselves.
Thank you. Thank you, Kanu, aka Sandy. One of the beautiful things about everyone sharing so far is the commonality of this energy of light. Like we've all felt the energy of light, and I could see it in Kristin's video, the sweet divine one, where, you know, what is that opening that I need to have in me to allow the energy of the divine to just gently take care of me and fill me up so I can live a full life. And it's interesting that we have all of our little, I wouldn't say avatars, but angels, guides, masters, friends along the way who will kind of nudge us along because they are so entrenched in the light. And for us to even be a part of this book as co-authors, we're all that. You know, we're all like these living beings of light, walking one step at a time, taking everyone who's in our connection with us deeper and deeper into the light. And I loved your story, Kanu. Thank you so much. We're going to move on to someone who is just got, I would say, so much courage and tenacity and light. And her story is so rich and raw. Her story is so rich and raw and real, from woundedness, so from woundology to wholesomeness, where she really stepped in. And to be different wasn't a crime. Imagine traveling through your journey in a very heterosexual world, and then later on realizing you might be a little different and that there's nothing wrong with that. But to be able to embrace your difference and just, it's no longer different now, but to just be you and to move from that place of woundology to wholeness. I invite you to welcome the beautiful Reverend Temple Hayes. Temple, thank you for contributing to the book.
Om Shanti, Sister Jenna. And you know, I don't know in my lifetime that I've met a person more suited to be the leader of a book about meditation than you, my dear sister. Whether you're texting or we're talking or I think your name, I immediately hear, be still, Temple, be quiet, go meditate. And that's with all the sincerity of my heart. It's my honor to be in your playing field, in your boat, or wherever you go. There's a saying that says that a miracle is what happens when you wake up one day and you're there and you don't recall all the necessary steps that it took to get you there. When I was 5 years old, outside in our backyard, climbing a tree, I heard a message that I was here for the world, as a 5-year-old would hear that type of message. Yet in that moment, it did not feel like a miracle to me because I had already been exposed to a small town of Southern Baptist, deep-rooted religiosity, as well as going into my teenage years of realizing that I was attracted to the same sex. And obviously, to put it in perspective, this was before you could Google, let me find people like me, or let me understand myself. I felt, if anything, like a curse. And like Kanu, I was approached as I was involved in cults and I was the black sheep. And my grandmother, whom I adored at 13 and a half, told me that I was going to hell before I even had my driver's license. So in that space of my life, there was such a dichotomy, because I would talk to God or the divine, and I felt the presence, and I felt the light, and I felt the energy, and I felt the healing. And then I would go into the box and the aquarium, and I would get the mirror back to me of shame and guilt and betrayal from my own family. And that being said, I was working in a corporation when I was going into my 20s. And I had already decided then to live in a closet, whatever that would look like, and not draw too much attention to myself, because so far it hadn't gone that well. So I there working, and a man starts to approach me, and he walks towards me and he holds up his arm. And here I am, like I said, close to 20, he holds up his arm and it's bleeding. And my immediate innate instinct was to go to him and offer him a healing. And I held my hand to him, and immediately he stopped bleeding, and he looked at me, and it really scared him, and it shocked me. And I went, oh my gosh, I'm a healer. I can't do this though, because I can't have one more thing that's weird, going on around here. So I went through my life and found metaphysics and became a spiritual leader and, all that. And then in my going into to be 50, I decided to go on a journey to Brazil, because I'm always, like all of the people, the wonderful teachers and leaders and healers today, as they all share, I'm always a student first, more than anything in my life. And so I went to Brazil to discover more abilities, more innate energy. And I went before a healer that told me that I was here to be a healer, and they did some work on me, and they told me to go back to my posada and to be quiet and be still for 24 hours. Well, my room was mostly windows, and the noise level was very intrusive, if you will. You could hear elements from the outdoors. And of course, with me, there's going to be some noise wanting to be silent. And so just like my life had been previously, there's construction workers outside my windows. And it was very distracting, and I could not relax and follow the instructions that I had been given about about being quiet. So anyway, short of the story, I sought another room. There were none available. And I said, okay, this is my experience. I'm supposed to be able to be quiet in the midst of noise. What a concept. And so I lie down, I take a deep, deep, deep sleep. And I just go to like another dimension. And in that deep sleep, or likened to what so many of you have said today, I enter into like a cave of deeper understanding within my being. And in that, I awoke to something or someone tapping me on the shoulder. Yet what was interesting is I was the only one in the room. And I was shown a movie of when I was 19 years old. And I saw the man holding up his arm, and it was bleeding. And the voice said, you have always been you. You have always been a healer. You have always been a miracle worker. At this time, the construction noise is so loud, it's almost unbearable. And I go and I open the sliding glass window, and I yell down, and I'm just being loud because obviously I don't speak Portuguese. And I'm leaning over and I'm going, hey, be quiet. And the guy is looking at me with body language like I apologize. And over to the side, a man is walking towards me with a bandage on his arm, and he's pointing to his arm. And here we are in the divine timing of life, of 30 years between each moment, of the same story and moment, of that a miracle is what happens. It's what happens without us remembering all the steps it took to get us there. A miracle is the fact that in divine timing, there is absolutely no timing in this human life. And it's been one of the greatest moments of my life is to, like the wonderful Kanu said, that you know that there's something instilled within you that is yet to be realized. And like all of you, I can continue to seek it with humility and with the depth of my being. Thank you for allowing me to be part of this experience. It's been very teary today. Just to see these great souls and the healing of our stories. And that's what I know this book will be.
Yeah.
It will be a continued healing for people to wake up, come out of the closet, and be brave. Yes.
So beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Temple. There was a part in the book that I loved where your friend, when you were in Brazil, was saying, it's not that anything is wrong with you, Temple, it's everything that is right with you. Yes. Remember that part?
Yes. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And I could only imagine what that felt like at 13, someone that you love. And then here is Baba's light going, don't listen to that garbage. Listen to me.
Yes.
You know, you're a healer. All of my kids have a different role to play in this unlimited drama. And one of the roles I need you to play is to help to heal my children. So thank you for your contribution over the years. And thank you for sharing in the book as well. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. So everyone, hasn't this been a very moving experience? I think we were able to convey through all of our co-authors in the meditation book, just about the depth and the richness of what this book will offer. And each one of you, every one of you, Reverend Sylvia, Yogesh, Max, Emily, Temple, Kanu, did I miss anybody? Thank you. Thank you so much for being who you are and for being instruments for Baba's light to shine bright and bright. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. I think with all said, I would love if we could just hold a moment of prayer and silence. In one, to just be grateful for our own journey, however it's been, whatever it's been, it's our own. And to hold silence for our humanity to awaken to the divinity in them by not being so trapped in the limitation of the body, but to be released by the knowing that they're immortal, eternal, imperishable, pure beings of light, the soul, and that they've come from God's womb, and that we should live with that energy here. This is the heaven on earth here, and that we bring Baba's light here. So let's take a moment of silence and send our good wishes and pure feelings throughout the entire world, north, east, south, and west. There's someone out there who's being called to the light, to the divine expression of their ultimate self, to the purity within. It's time to answer and move forward. So let us allow Baba's light to flow through us completely and widely, so we can be of service. Om Shanti. Thank you all so much. I would just love to see everyone on the screen so I can give a big, what was that hug that Reverend Sylvia said? A holy hug. I want to give a holy hug to everyone. And this has been quite a moving experience, I'm sure, for all of us involved, and hopefully those of you who are out there to feel the sincerity and the intention of this book, but of every author in the book, that they've opened up and shared something so meaningful to them, to you. It is with our pure wish that you will also open up and find your own purpose and your own meaning. So thank you all so much. Om Shanti. Om Shanti. Lots of love. Lots of light. Meditation. Intimate experiences with the divine through contemplative practices. A common sentient series by Sacred Stories Publishing. The quieter you become, the more you're able to hear. Rumi. A time to choose. We find ourselves right now in the age of great transformation, one of the most consequential moments in human history. These are indeed the times that the great prophets and seers throughout the millennia have spoken about. Mankind has experienced and survived many eras of tremendous change, of course, yet with each turn of the spiral, the permutations become more amplified, as if there will be one final revolution of the cycle that turns it all around, so we can start anew once more.
I had the opportunity to connect with the energy of Shiva and have an amazing experience of the divine feminine, the divine masculine entering into my being and changing me forever.
During an afternoon sail while on vacation, a divine message was given to me through an unexpected, non-ordinary chance encounter.
The story I share in these pages is one of a profound vision that occurred during a meditation that changed the course of my life.